over two examples with you, 4a and 4b. We're going to consider that one example, and then we're also going to go over 7a and 7b together. Today's worksheet is meant to take the first part of the problem, so the first half, for instance, all the a's, like the 1a, the 2a, the 3a, the 4a, and so on, and use that same method to help you solve for the b version of that problem. So what we do in 4a is going to help us in 4b. And the difference is, you'll notice in 4a we can actually solve for x and get an answer, but in 4b, when they ask us to solve for g, we're not necessarily going to get a numerical answer. We can, because there's two other variables involved within that problem. Alright, so 4a, typically what most of us would look at doing here is taking the 1/2 times 4 and getting that out of the way. So 1/2 times 4 gives me 2. So we're left with 2x equals -20. And then in order to solve for x, we just have to do the opposite of multiply. We have to divide both sides by 2. Those cancel. We're left with x equals -10. And that's how we would do that. The other thing that we could have done, and it's going to look a little weird, because this is how I would do it and how most of you would do it, is we could have done this right away. It's going to look a little strange, but it's going to help us with 4b. We could have divided both sides right away by 1/2 times 4. And you're probably thinking, well, that's kind of weird. Why wouldn't I just do it the first way? And I agree, but you're going to see that this is basically the same thing. The 1/2, since everything on the left side is being multiplied, we can divide by more than one thing at the same time. So 1/2 times 4 divided by 1/2 times 4 cancels. And then if we take -20, we could divide it by 1/2, get an answer, and then take that answer and divide it by 4. Or we could do -20 divided by whatever we get here. Well, we already know 1/2 times 4 is 2. And then -20 divided by 2 again, we still get the -10. And the reason I'm showing you that is because in 4b, we have to divide by two things at the same time. So, for instance, you'll notice they want us to solve for g, and g is being multiplied by a times e. If we knew what a and e were, we could get a number, and we could divide both sides by whatever that number is. Since we don't know what a e is, but we do know that they're being multiplied together, I can divide both sides by a e. And since everything on the left side is being multiplied together, that allows us to cancel out AE divided by AE. We're left with G equals 10 over 80. Alright, so that's how we would do that. It looks funky, and as we notice, there are no numerical answers there. We have to leave variables in our answer, and that's typically something that's a little tough for some students that I've noticed in the past. You're going to use all the same solving methods that we've done to get numerical answers, but you're going to be left with variables inside that answer. So, alright, and a lot of times these can be done in multiple ways. So if you do it a little bit differently, or if you get maybe a little bit different answer, that's okay. I'm going to show you here in 7b, there are actually 3 that I can show you, 3 different versions of the answer for 7b. But anyway, let's do 7a first. We would solve for x in this particular problem. Now, the way that I do this doesn't mean this has to be the way that you would solve for x. I would subtract 4 first on both sides. We'd be left with -8x on the right, and -30 minus 4 is like -30 plus -4. We get -34, a larger negative. And then to solve for x, we'd have to divide both sides by -8. Cancel. We'd have -34 over -8. 2 negatives dividing is going to give us a positive. If I reduce 34 over 8, I can divide both of those by 2. I get 17/4. So you could leave your answer like that, or you can turn it into a mixed number, 4 1/4, or a decimal, 4.25. So any of these answers would be fine. is subtract a number over. I'm going to subtract 10. Those cancel. I'm left with negative 2h on the right. I do not know what 7a minus 10 is, so I can only write 7a minus 10. Remember, I can't combine those because 10 does not have an a attached to it. They're not like terms. All right? And then, to solve this for h, I would divide both sides by negative 2. Now, when you divide by a negative in these literal equations, that can get a little bit messy. So h equals 7a minus 10 all over negative 2. This is one acceptable answer for me. Okay. Some versions of this answer will ask you to simplify it completely, and what they mean by that is they don't want any negatives in that denominator. So if you end up having a negative in the denominator, just remember, if you think of any fraction, so let's take like 7/8. Remember that if it's negative 7/8, that negative can either go with the 7 or it could go with the 8. So I could write this as negative 7/8 over 7 over negative 8. Either one is negative and it's the same. So the same goes for this answer. The negative, I could take it from the 2 and bring it up top, so it would look like this instead. However, the whole thing would have to be negative, so that's what the parentheses are for. And basically, I'm showing you this long form, but basically what you can do is flip the signs, as we'll see, because this will turn this negative, and that's going to turn positive. So another version of this answer is actually negative 7a plus 10 all over 2. Or you could write 10 minus 7a all over 2 would also be okay. There's another version. And then one last, so yeah, that's actually what I write, 10 minus 7a. I know, a little bit of information overload, but remember, I always like to show you all your possible options. Another thing you can do here with either of these answers is you could take each term divided by 2. So for instance, with this one, I could take 7a over negative 2, and then I could also divide my second part, negative 10 divided by negative 2, which is a positive 5 or a plus 1. That's another possible answer. You do that with this one as well. 10 divided by 2 is 5 minus 7a over 2. All sorts of options. You could even turn 7 over 2 into a decimal if you wanted to. So it would be 5 minus 3.5a or negative 3.5a plus 5. All sorts of options. And like I said, I know information overload, but hopefully one of those kind of resonates with you. Most people are probably going to leave it like the first example, the first way that I had it, but I know some of you like to completely simplify things and do it that way too. So just like to show you all of your options. Okay, so this one was a little bit tougher. Some of these are going to be very simple. They're kind of like one-step equations, but I do know that this is kind of a tough concept, so this is supposed to be an introduction. Make sure you get this done, hold on to it, and we'll use it next week. All right. So have a good weekend. Finish this up.